Okay, in this video I'm going to be comparing the Magpul CTR stock to the Magpul MOE stock. This is by request from a handful of my subscribers who wanted to see a side-by-side comparison and also have me list the differences and my thoughts. The Magpul MOE stock, that stands for Magpul Original Equipment, has a retail of roughly $40 that carries a part number of MAG 400-BLK, and the BLK obviously indicates that this is a black one. If it was flat dark earth, the last three letters would be FDE, for example. The Magpul CTR stock, CTR stands for Compact Type Restricted, has roughly an $80 retail price and carries a part number of MAG 310-BLK. And of course this one's black, so the last three letters of the part number are BLK for black. Both of these are mil-spec stocks. I would never have any need for any type of commercial spec buffer tubes or stocks or anything like that, so I wouldn't even purchase those for review. Now, although the CTR has a retail of $80, you can find this online for substantially less, probably $60, $65 price range for street price. The MOE you can find, roughly $35, somewhere right around that price range. So you still are looking at a $30 to $35 price difference between the two. Now, these are the boxes that the USA made products ship in. If you're looking at a Magpul product like one of these stocks and the box looks substantially different, definitely pause and do some investigation to make sure that you're looking at a genuine Magpul product and it is a made in the USA product. What you can run into on the internet are PTS products. Those are made in China. They are inferior to the USA made product because they're not designed for actual rifles. They're designed for paintball, fake guns, toy guns. So keep that in mind. Also be aware of fakes. I've been seeing a lot of fake Magpul product floating around the market. A lot of slings, a lot of sights, stocks. I've been seeing a lot of fake Troy products as well, so keep that in mind. And a made in the USA Magpul product is not going to ship from China or Hong Kong or any of those types of countries. That's a red flag right there. This stuff's made in the USA. It doesn't need to go to China and then get shipped back to the USA. That's a big red flag that you could be looking at a counterfeit product. So definitely exercise due diligence and do your homework before you buy something that might be questionable. All right, moving on. I'm going to take these out of the box and we'll take a look at exactly what's in each of the boxes, what's included with each stock. Okay, the contents of the CTR box is on the left. Basically this, and this. The contents of the Magpul MOE stock are on the right, which would be this, and this. So starting at the bottom here, you have installation instructions. The installation instructions are a little bit different because the stocks are a little bit different. Both stocks ship with the typical Magpul logo decal. The stocks are wrapped in these plastic bags. And you have the yellow piece of paper that's basically a warning that discusses the difference between commercial and mil-spec buffer tubes and so on. The CTR stock comes with this black item up here. That's the only difference This is a this particular one says 2013. Depending upon how old your stock is, it could say 2012. It might even say 2014. This is a fold-out poster thing that's got a poster of a guy with a rifle on one side, and the other side has pictures of all the Magpul products. This is pretty big, so I'm not going to unfold it, but you can kind of see what that looks like on one side. It just has kind of a diagram of all the different Magpul products. That's not anything to get excited about. So those are the contents of each one of the boxes. So let's move on and we'll actually take a look at the two stocks. Okay, again with the CTR on the left and the MOE on the right, you can see that the physical dimensions, the general overall shape are identical. What really sets the two apart, if you look closely, is the friction lock of the CTR, and you'll also notice that the CTR has an ambidextrous QD sling mount location. The other holes and wrap through sling mounts, the clip holes for the cheek risers, the butt pad, both butt pads, which are replaceable and upgradable. Both of them are 0.30 of an inch, so there's no difference on the butt pads. And the material construction, the quality of the construction, they're virtually identical from what I can tell. I've used both of these stocks extensively on different rifles. I like both of them. If you've watched my other videos, you know that I definitely do like the CTR stock. I've compared that to other stocks, and I've talked about it before in other videos. So both of these are good. My recommendation is, if you can afford the extra money, the extra $30, go with the CTR. And there are two pluses with the CTR. Like I said, the QD mount, which is ambidextrous. You can put a QD sling attachment point here. It does not include one, but you can add one. But the big sell point is the friction lock. And what this friction lock does is it allows you to adjust the stock and then lock the stock in the position, so there's no wobble of the stock on your buffer tube. The MOE does wobble. It's wobbled on every buffer tube I've ever put one of these on, whether it's a PSA, a Daniel Defense, Spikes, Bravo Company, LMT, Colt. I had some Colt 4-position mil-spec buffer tubes even, and it wobbles on those. So every buffer tube I've ever tried a Magpul MOE on, it's actually wobbled. So what you have to do is you have to come to your own conclusion on whether or not that kind of stock wobble is a problem for you. I don't believe the stock wobble is going to affect accuracy when you're shooting. If you're doing a run and gun and you're moving with the rifle, the wobble, I've noticed, does have a tendency of making a little bit of noise. But then again, your sling mount, and your other hardware you may have on your loadout or what's in your pockets makes noise also, so that may not be a deal breaker. So going back to the CTR, let's just focus on the CTR for a moment. Okay, with the CTR, if you go to release the stock, to adjust it, the friction lock is unlocked, and after you position the stock, you push up on the friction lock and this will lock it in place. So this is a really nice feature here that eliminates the wobble that you would see with like the MOE and a lot of the other A2 style stocks that are on the market. So this is a really nice upgrade. I like this design. I myself, I really only run 1-point slings, so I normally use a sling point that replaces a latch plate. So this QD mount point isn't really a big selling plus for me. It might be for you. I've also used these stocks, both the MOE and the CTR, with cheek risers. I don't really need one, but I've tried it with cheek risers, and the Magpul cheek risers are pretty nice, and if you definitely need it, that's a nice option to be able to add it on here. The QD mount point, like I mentioned, it's ambidextrous. You can put your QD on either side depending upon how if you want to run a 2-point sling and you want to use that. So the butt pad, of course, is replaceable. You've got a couple of hex bolts right there. You remove those, and then there's a couple little clips right here, and you can remove this butt pad. You can run it without the butt pad, or you can put different butt pads on it. So that's a real nice option. For the lack of a better way to put it, I've beat the crap out of these stocks, and they've never let me down. They've never moved when they weren't supposed to. They've not broke on me or fell apart or anything. These are just solid, well-built stocks. I've used them for years, and they've never let me down. But that's me. So the MOE is pretty much the same style. Basically, you don't have the friction lock, and because of the friction lock mechanism, the stock is a smidgen lighter. I don't know the actual weight difference because I didn't weigh these, but I can physically tell by handling them. It's just a little bit lighter. So you don't have the QD mount point right there. The lock mechanism, the adjustment mechanism, the shape, the facility to put a cheek riser on it or your other loop through slings are the same, as well as the recoil pad back here uses the same bolts, the same mechanism, so the geometry is all there. So I did bring a buffer tube with me for this review, and I'm going to go ahead and put the stocks on a buffer tube, and you can see exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to the wiggle that you get on the buffer tube. Okay, I've got a Daniel Defense mil-spec 6-position buffer tube on the Magpul MOE stock, and the reason I want to show this is when I say there's some wiggle, this isn't a deal breaker. This wiggle, it's moving just a little bit. You can hear it. Hopefully you can hear it through the speakers of my camera here. I'm moving it up and down and back and forth. So that's the noise I'm referring to, and the slight wiggle. This is definitely not a deal breaker, in my opinion, if you go with this stock, because it's not going to affect your accuracy. In my opinion, it's not going to affect your accuracy. It just might be a little bit annoying listening to that sound. So that's the stock, the Magpul MOE stock on the buffer tube. And while we're at it, basically to install this, when you push down on this lever to adjust the stock position, it pushes down on this rod right here. So to install this buffer tube or to remove it, you have to physically grab this little metal rod and pull it down like this and hold it while you slide your buffer tube on. So that's not really something I can do on camera because it kind of requires two hands. Okay, went ahead and put the buffer tube on the CTR. Now you'll notice that right now the friction lock is not locked in place, and I'm doing that basically. If you don't lock down the friction lock, you get a little bit of wiggle, and the wiggle is not as much as the MOE, but you can hear it. It's moving up and down and side to side. Now when I lock the friction lock in place, there's no wiggle. There's no wiggle left, right, up, down. I'm wiggling it and you don't hear anything. So the friction lock makes this a real solid lock on your buffer tube. There's no wiggle, no movement, no sound. So there's your big plus, in my opinion, is the friction lock and the ability to eliminate the wiggle and the noise associated with the wiggle. Again, I'm just going to reiterate, I've used both of these stocks quite extensively. I like them both, and I prefer the CTR for the mentioned reasons. But if a CTR wasn't available, I would be more than happy to run the MOE. So hopefully that helps you make your decision when it comes to purchasing a Magpul stock for your rifle. And the extra $30 or so that you spend on the CTR, I think, is worth it.